Welcome to Roland Garros Live with the team from Diary of a Professional Tennis Coach. For 15 days, we'll have all the latest from Paris. Come and slide in to play with us on the Terre Battue. Well, hello everyone, and a warm welcome back to Diary of a Professional Tennis Coach. We are RGing live. It is day 9, Monday. We now know the quarterfinalists mostly. We certainly know them on the WTA side, just one remaining on the ATP side to be decided. There's been a few upsets, we can tell you that, both on the men's side and the women's today. And here alongside me, Candy Reid, we've got podcast host and broadcaster Mitch Michaels. You can find him at MoneyMitch21. Hi, Mitch.
Hi, Candy. Thanks so much for the invite. I don't want to correct the host, but I think we know who all the quarterfinalists are as we record this, but maybe not. Maybe not.
It's live, Mitch. This is exciting. We're teasing it.
Yeah.
We're teasing it.
We are.
We've also got tennis writer from tennismajors.com and sportskeeda.com. It's Harish Ramchandani, based out of Mumbai. Harish, if you can hear me, say hello, please.
Hi, Candy. I can hear you. Hi, Mitch. Very nice to be here. Thanks so much.
Perfect. So we'll go through the women's results shortly because they were done and dusted quite a bit earlier. The exciting results have just been coming on the men's side, where 3 of the 4 have been completed. So there we go, Mitch. We've got one more exciting one, and who knows what's going to happen there. It could be a massive upset. We will talk about Sinner versus Rublev very shortly. Let's start, though, with the first match of the day. Alexander Zverev, looking for, of course, a first major title, has got the better, Mitch, of Talon Griekspoor. We were expecting a real hefty battle here because they played a lot. They played really close matches. But unfortunately for us, Griekspoor couldn't continue after losing the first set and going down 3-0. Hurt an ab, he said, in the warm-up. And so the first match of the day was a bit of a dud, wasn't it?
It was unfortunate. You mentioned some of their matches. Indian Wells was just a full long war of a match, and Griekspoor had been playing so well. It's fascinating, though, right? Because, you'll get to who Zverev's playing next, but that section of the draw had players that had been looking for their form, maybe some confidence. Zverev's back into the quarters where he's been and where he belongs in a lot of ways, but hasn't been tested at all. So I'm curious to see how him and his opponent, which we'll get to, what their level is going to be like, because they're going from really not having to have a steep test to right to the fire. So if Zverev gets through, a lot of people doubted him, and he's back to the quarterfinals.
We heard, Harish, from a couple of players yesterday, including Olga Savchuk, whose husband, Jez Green, is Alexander Zverev's strength and conditioning trainer, that Alex, well, he works harder than perhaps anybody else. He's always on the practice court. If you're ever around a tournament, he's working on his serve, working on his ground strokes, working on his fitness, but he does like it hot. He likes warm weather where the ball really kicks up. What are you thinking about Zverev to win a major title? At one point, it looked like he'd just run out of time, but he's right in there, isn't he?
Sure. I think, he's really come back well from his ankle injury that he had a couple of years ago. He's got back to the top 2, top 3 right now, along with Yannick Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz. One of the major things that people have spoken about is that he gets a bit defensive in the crucial matches. That's been stopping him from winning a major, but, he did well in Australia. And I think if he gets to the next match, he could be tough. I would pick him to reach the semifinals from that section, to be honest.
All right. So there we have it. Your thoughts, Mitch, do you think the same? We're going to play Novak Djokovic in the quarterfinals. So the 3rd seed, Zverev, the 6th seed, Novak. We'll talk about Novak's 3-set win over Cam Norrie. He's playing well as well. But Zverev's got to fancy his chances?
I think so. I don't know. The path is tough because you're talking about that match to get to Sinner, to get to Alcaraz. So now that's my big question, right? Zverev Djokovic is going to tell us something, but it seems like there's levels. Like there's a level of Sinner and Alcaraz are on one plane, and we'll see where Djokovic is. So can Zverev beat both in the same major? I think that might be too much to ask, in my opinion.
If he has to play him, of course. So it's 9-7 to Novak in the history of that head-to-head. Just having a look at the matchups recently, Harish. They played at this year's Australian Open. Zverev was a set-up when, of course, Novak had to withdraw from injury. They played a couple of years before that in Cincinnati. On that occasion, straight sets for Novak. I'm just looking at the surfaces they played on. Did play in the early stages of their career in 2020, 2019 for Zverev, a couple of times on clay, but haven't played on the red stuff since 2020. So let's fast forward now and look at Zverev, Harish. What have you thought? Sorry, look at Novak. Let's think about him a little bit. Of course, he warmed up, didn't he, for the tournament, winning that 100th title in Geneva. He said to Andy Murray when they walked on to the Rafa Nadal celebration, well, they were having a bit of a laugh, weren't they? Murray said, well, now you've got a decent coach. You're back in the winner's circle. Can you see Novak winning a title here, his fourth Roland Garros?
He definitely can. I mean, he's got all the experience. He's won a lot out here, so I think he can win. But just to Mitch's point about Zverev, I also find it hard to see Novak beat Zverev, then Sinner, and then Alcaraz. To go to three of them back to back at this stage, he's not had the greatest year so far. Just had a good week just before the tournament. I don't see him with beating all three of them. To be honest, I think he might beat one, maybe two, but not all three of them.
Yeah, it's a tough task, Mitch. I mean, Novak hasn't played his best, has he, in 2025? Before that Geneva match, he was losing matches that we thought he should win. He's still got a good record this season, 20 wins, 7 defeats. He's 8-2 on the clay. And as Harish said, he's got massive experience. But what about the energy levels? He hasn't lost a set so far.
Yeah, I saw that stat, and I saw he's the oldest Roland Garros quarterfinalist since I think 71, which is a throwback. But no, it's he masters this format as well as anyone in the history of the game. My only concern so far, and as to Haresh's point, like he hasn't faced anyone that can really hurt him out there. And we just listed about 3, if not more. And if it's not chalk, there are other players that might be able to inflict some damage on him. So, but if you're grading him up to this point, he's done everything you could do. He gets through without dropping a set, and he gets a showdown against Zverev, who, I mean, it's been a minute since they played on clay. Zverev probably likes his chances on this surface other than the other ones, versus the other ones, I should say, against Novak. But what's it been? Because he pulled out last year. It's been since Roland Garros 22 since he's actually lost it at this tournament. So Novak's always confident. So we'll see. I think he's got a shot, though. I think the biggest thing for me is how he's serving. I think Novak's serve is like the ultimate equalizer at this stage in his career. And if he keeps serving well and gives himself opportunities, I think he's a dark horse, not on the same level of Alcaraz Sinner, but definitely would have a chance.
I remember we saw when I worked for the ATP, a Hawkeye is used, and they show exactly where the players are serving. And it's fascinating that Novak on the deuce side 1 year, and it was only a few years ago, he was serving about 75% within a few inches of the line. That's how accurate it is. It's never been, Harish, the biggest serve, has it, from Novak, but he just places it so well. And then he's on ball 3 with the shot he wants, which is essentially for all players a forehand.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. I think he does serve really well, especially under pressure. He's got the experience that being a 24-time major champion that comes with it. I agree. I think he's been serving well, but again, I feel against Sinner Alcaraz, I think it'll be really a tough it'll be an interesting battle, I think, between his serve and the way they return and really take the ball early. So it'd be interesting to see. I'd still give an edge to Sinner and Alcaraz in those matchups against Djokovic.
Yeah.
But I suppose, Mitch, you have to think that Novak's got to just think one match at a time. He doesn't know if those two are going to win. He doesn't know about injury. He's just going to be focusing on Zverev.
Oh, I agree with that. Yeah. I think that he's at a point in his career where he's got a lot of experience and he's probably got game plans on hand for every player. Yeah. But the Zverev matchups in front of him, he understands it's a step up in competition, clearly. And Zverev on the flip side, right? Like Zverev's serve is going to be the key in that one, because Zverev, when he's booming in 130, 140 mile an hour serves and keeping Novak on his heels, he can't wear Sasha down. I think this one for Zverev, though, like we were talking about, can he win a major? I still think he can. I think this path in particular is hard, but he kind of, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm curious what you both think. The pressure is starting to mount a little bit to the point where his window, it's not closed, but he might be on the other side of whatever his peak is. So there's definitely some added weight to not waste opportunities.
Yeah. I was actually on another podcast, Harish, and somebody said they knew someone in the Novak camp, and apparently Novak is not enjoying it. He's got a lot of obligations, a lot of sponsors. So a lot of why he is playing is for reasons other than trying to win matches. Of course, the motivation is probably waning because inevitably it has to at some point. But he's just won his 100th Roland Garros match. That means he's won more matches at this particular major than any other, which I thought was incredible given how many Australian Opens he's won. What do you think about Novak's motivation, Harish, at this point?
He's admitted himself that he's not as motivated as he has been in the past. He's been struggling with that a bit, especially after Nadal went. He said he's kind of lost a little bit of that competitive kind of rivalry sort of thing. Also, losing to some of these players wouldn't help that motivation. I think the losses that he's had to some of the lower ranked players or to Sinner Alcaraz, they would just kind of make him doubt himself a little more, whether he really wants to be out there, put in the hard work, be away from his family. Having said that, but I think as long as he's playing, he still wants to compete and beat all of them. If for whatever reason he's being out there, whether it's for his personal self or the sponsor obligation, every time he steps on court, he really does want to win. And if he has a chance, he's going to go out and take it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Into his 19th Roland Garros quarterfinal. Mitch, put that into words.
It's hard to. I mean, and as Harish said, like the guy's won everything, so it's easy to not have motivation. 19 quarterfinals. So we're talking on a level of longevity that's unmatched in this sport. He's consistent. He treats his body like a temple, and I think the fact that when he does get injured, it's a shock because I mean all athletes get injured. His is just the most rarest. Motivation is going to be tough. He talked about it without Rafa playing. He doesn't have one of his contemporaries. He's won it all, and the question for me, Candy, is he going to be okay playing when he's clearly not number one or number two? And then if it slips a little more and there's no right decision, it's what players want to do. But Novak, given what he's done, I don't see him sticking around long if he's not a top two, top three, top four player.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Hasn't lost a set so far, as we've said, won 95 points against Cam Norrie to 64. I mean, that is an absolute demolition at this level. Very impressive from Novak. And as we're saying, he will play Alexander Zverev with a head-to-head 9-7. So 17th meeting between these two. All right, gentlemen, let's get on to the big surprise of the men's draw at the fourth round stage. Alexander Bublik coming back from a set down to shock Jack Draper, who now is being really talked about, isn't he, as a major champion. Draper has had a phenomenal year. Alexander Bublik has kind of come in and out. We know what extraordinary talent, Harish, that Bublik has. He's one of my favorites to watch. I just absolutely love him. But he can just go away. Today, he didn't go away. He was right there and fantastic.
Yeah, actually, I think a lot of us had penciled in Sinner and Draper as the match to watch in the quarterfinals, and he kind of played spoilsport there. But like you said, Bublik is a great player. He's got fantastic game. He's really fun to watch and really entertaining with the crowd. I didn't watch that whole match, but yeah, I was a bit surprised when I saw that result myself because for him to kind of come back from a set down, win three sets in a row against Draper, who's been playing really well. And a big stage like the French Open, and to reach his first Grand Slam quarterfinal with all the pressure that he had, of making a first Grand Slam quarterfinal, I think he did remarkably well. So pleasantly surprised, and I think it's great for men's tennis if he can kind of compete at this level consistently.
Yeah, he's fun, isn't he, Mitch? 27-year-old, represents Kazakhstan. He's the world number 62. Has been a top 20 player, but I'm just looking at his results at Roland Garros. So he started playing in the main draw in 2019. Second round, first round, second round, first round, second round. Where on earth has this come from?
I'm not entirely sure. I saw that first quarterfinal of his first major quarterfinal of his career. I saw the match stats, 68 winners, so he's very aggressive. And
Exactly.
I just wonder, Candy, too, because I know you work with a lot of talented players and teach. What part of his game, if any, would be teachable? Like, what would you teach a young player to do that Bublik does? The drop shots? Because Draper had a tough time today with those. But I'm kidding. He's so unique in the way he plays.
True.
It's hard to prepare for a player like that when you're on the other side of the net.
And I don't know if you've seen the video on social media where Bublik is teaching kids, because at tournaments, a player will get chosen, won't they? Generally, they won't be like the top guys. Whenever we were out there, they'll take a Bublik or someone who's fun, a Gael Monfils, go play with the kids, the locals. And you can see Bublik then handing the racket to the little girl the wrong way round. So she has to hit it with the handle, because we know he does that in matches, which is absolutely bonkers. He's like, to me anyway, a Gael Monfils and entertainment value. I absolutely love him. I've met him a few times. He actually requested that we do the interview without talking about tennis. So in this fascinating interview, we did the whole thing. He was talking about his love for Peaky Blinders. At this point, his wife was pregnant, and he said he wanted to have his son as a gentleman. And he loved all, these he loves watches. He loves hiking. He doesn't really like tennis, although he loves tennis now, and he's in his first major quarterfinal. Harris, how can you make sense of this?
I think he's an enigmatic personality. He's kind of crazy to watch, and I think that's what makes it so unique. That there's such few players like him, Game Monfils, Nick Kyrgios, who play
Yeah.
really an entertaining brand of tennis. And with Bublik, it's always the kind of extra. You're kind of waiting for him to go off the rails.
Yeah.
Not so much as with Kyrgios or Monfils, but Bublik has kind of shown that in the past that he can go off in a really bad direction. But this one he kind of played 3 great sets and played really good tennis from whatever little bit highlights I've seen. So really kudos to him. And, like I said, he's always fun to even speak to. His comments, his interviews are fairly honest. He's really open about it, whether it's about how he likes tennis or dislikes tennis, and about the sport, about the ADP, about his contemporaries. He's really honest, and that's kind of refreshing where we have so many diplomatic answers from players, in the press room.
Yeah, he's a breath of fresh air, isn't he, Mitch? Because he's so much fun. You just never quite know what you're going to get.
Yeah, I learned that he just hates mornings, so that's pretty cool. He just doesn't like to be scheduled early. But no, it's great to have him. It's great to have a different personality, and maybe this is. I just hope it's not a flash in the pan, because there's real game there. We can talk about the antics and everything, and yeah, I mean this comment hits it right. Like, he's a disruptor out there. I don't know if troubling Sinner is going to be tough to ask for anyone in the sport, but he disrupts players that are studying analytics and play percentage tennis.
Yeah.
Bublik does not play that, so you have to kind of think on your feet a little more, and it was impressive. Upset of the tournament.
He just throws away the apple cart, doesn't he, and comes up with some extraordinary stuff.
Yeah.
A fantastic player. We don't know, gentlemen, who's going to play yet, but we presume it's going to be Yannick Sinner, the world number one at the time of recording right now. We're going live here on Diary of a Professional Tennis Coach, up 6-1, 3-1 against Andrei Rublev. We actually had Craig Boynton on the podcast, ex-coach of Hubie Hurkacz and Jim Courier, amongst many, many others. And we were just discussing before we went on the pod who Boynton might work with next. And my thought, Mitch, I don't know what you think, would be Rublev would be a perfect candidate for Craig Boynton to get his hands on. What do you think about that?
That would be a good one. I think, there's the talk of his mental state in tournaments, and I get that. It's very fair. I think that there's areas of his game that he can improve, or maybe a guy like Craig Boynton could improve. We talk about it in other sports too, Candy, like styles make fights. Rublev's, I guess, subpar in the elite level second serve against Sinner has always been frankly a disaster for him. And we saw it in the first 20 minutes of this match when it was 5-love before people had sat down with their refreshments. So Sinner's a buzzsaw, though. We saw it in Rome. A couple of times where if he gets momentum and you give him an opening, it could be headed nowhere fast.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. But looks like Yannick Sinner's going to come through that one. We'll keep you posted as the live podcast continues. All right, so let's now work our way to the women's side. The matches, well, yesterday in the round of 16, we had three-set matches. Today, just one. We've had an upset in the case of a French player moving forward, one that very few people had actually heard about until Harriet Dahr earlier this season accused Loïs Bosson of not wearing deodorant. That was the first that we knew about her, because Bosson has been injured. She's had terrible time with torn ligaments, all kinds of things. We've seen her now in a hospital bed. Harris, what have you made of this French player and this remarkable run in front of her home fans?
I think it's incredible. I think like you said, the first time I heard about her also was when Harriet Dahr made that comment, and I thought Boisson's response to that on social media, where she kind of tagged one of the deodorant companies, was kind of hysterical and really funny and a good sport. I think she kind of took that in her stride and kind of just let it be. And she's played great this week. She beat another French girl in the previous round, another French wildcard, playing her first top 20 match against Pegula, who's really consistent. Has been a top player in the last few years. She just kind of showed that, she's kind of got the game to kind of win playing in front of a French crowd. And now I think she's after 7 years, a French woman has come into the quarterfinals. So a great result for her. And I think Pegula herself said that she was kind of not surprised by the way Boyson was playing. She really played well. The French woman was using her topspin forehand and her heavy ground strokes really well to win the match.
Yeah, big win for Boisson, Mitch. We've got a quote from her: "To play on this court with such an atmosphere was incredible. I was confident before the match and knew I could do it even if she was really strong. I gave everything I had and it worked." We see some local players, don't we, particularly actually in France with the women, just sort of succumb under the pressure of home support. But this young woman seems to be thriving.
She does. And what is the quote? It's fortune favors the brave, because she was just
Yeah.
going for it today, down a set. Pegula had chances in the second, had chances late in the third, and Boson, who did tear her ACL last year, wasn't able to play. Thoughts creep into your mind like it's natural. Will I ever get this chance? And not only did she get this chance, she made the most of it. It also highlights, like you said, Candy, the crowd in Paris isn't incredible, but it does go both ways. It's a double-edged sword, right? You can live up to the expectation. It could uplift you, or it could be overwhelming and cause a negative effect. Well, she has used every ounce of that crowd to help uplift her. It was very special to see. Pegula's, it's going to take her some time to get over this. This was a tough loss for Jessie, an opportunity, but you got to favor Boson for making those plays down the stretch and really taking it in the final game. It was not easy until the last point. So props to her. Nothing much more to say.
Totally. To beat Pegula, I mean, Pegula sets the standard a little bit like the house, doesn't she, for the WTA? And when you beat her, you know you're playing well because she doesn't give opponents anything. Boisson becomes the first French singles player, Harris, to reach the last 8 of their home major. That's since 2017. The first as a wild card since Mary Pierce did it in 2002. That's incredible.
Definitely, and actually, I was also reading up on her that this is only her second WTA level event, main draw. So that's incredible that she hasn't competed at this level, but she's come out and gone all the way to the quarterfinals. And she was out for 9 months after last year's French Open when she couldn't play. So she's really come out of nowhere and just performing really well in front of a home crowd. So it's an incredible result.
And we talked about Bublik hitting drop shots, Mitch. She hit 34 today and 32 lobs. I mean, these are astonishing numbers. We've got Ons Jabeur back on court.
We do. It highlights something Haresh said, like 2 WTA events, not a lot of data, not a lot of tape. Study on this player, and that can be tough too when you don't know really how to break down a player that you haven't scouted too much. But it was. I mean, we talk about Bublik and players. It's just nice. And Ons Jabeur, who you mentioned, it's nice to have variety in tennis. That there's no one way to play, and it's good to see this type of play. And and for the French, I think it was Mladenovic in 2017, the last time someone went this far. So good that they have a local that's making a run.
And it's been a tough time, hasn't it, in France? We've got Alizé Cornet coming back into Billie Jean King Cup action, having been retired for 10 months. Deanne Parry's making a bit of a run, and Varvara Gracheva has changed nationality. She's their top player. There hasn't been great fortune for the French on the WTA side in particular, but now it looks like this young woman, a 22-year-old wild card ranked outside the world's top 300, is making some waves. Her reward, a match against Mira Andreeva, who I have to say was my pick before the tournament began. Andreeva, now Mitch, is 18 years of age. She seeded 6. She 3-5 win over Daria Kazatkina, ranked 17. What did you think of that match? What do you think overall about Mira Andreeva?
Well, back-to-back Roland Garros quarterfinals at her age is just astonishing. I thought I guess they played where she lost in the final, teared up a little bit when they played the last time. Talk about growth and development. It's a completely different player at this point. Andreeva gets a lot better. Her power on both wings, how she can handle variety, how she can handle some of the higher balls that Kazatkina hits. I'm with you on Andreeva. My only concern is I think she might have a Coco problem, because when that matchup seems to happen, that seems to be an issue for her. But otherwise, I mean, how could you not gush over what Andreeva can do and how she handles the moments as such a young player?
Yeah, Harris, she's just 18. She seemed to break out, didn't she, about 2 years ago? I think it was in Madrid, where she beat Magda Linette, Leila Annie Fernandez, and Beatriz Haddad-Maia back to back to back. It was an incredible run, and we knew big things were expected of her. But sometimes these players who have an immediate target on their back lose a little bit of steam, but she hasn't seemed to.
You're right. I think since she broke out in Madrid like 2 years ago, she's been really going strength from strength. She's been doing well
Yeah.
at the slams. She's been doing well at the regular WTA events. She won a couple of WTA 1000 events, and I think she's again another really great player to watch. She plays with so much variety, different from just bashing the ball from the baseline like some of the other female players that we have right now. A lot of variety. I think she's kind of also got really good advice from her coach Conchita Martinez. They seem to have a great relationship. Whenever
Yeah.
they speak of each other, it seems like a fun relationship that's really helping her. Martinez's experience as well, and I think that she's going to win a Grand Slam sooner or later, definitely. And I had picked, I mean, she was my pick for the title as well, and
Okay.
I think I'm going to still stick with it and say that she's going to win this year.
Oh, interesting. Mitch, just tell us who your pick is on the WTA side.
I went chalk and said Sabalenka, though
Oh.
honestly, I'm kind of getting in the area of a little scared about Iga now, because that, I know it's probably on the rundown, but like what Iga did yesterday, I was not expecting. Not as dominant as she was. We can get to that, but I would just go Sabalenka. She's been the clear number one. I think this is on her. This is one of the few things in her trophy case she doesn't have, and what I've seen, I like her methodically to get the title.
Yeah, we'll talk more about Sabalenka and Iga shortly. Let's continue with today's matches. So Pegula not through. Mitch, you're a US player. We've had some US men's success as well, but we've got Coco Gauff, who is through. She reached the final here in 2022, was a semi-finalist last year. Good start for the 21-year-old. She beat Ekaterina Alexandrova, Mitch, who can at times be unplayable.
Yeah, Coco's always been a great clay player. I mean, she just kept running into Iga in her dominant era, running through some top players. But look at the stats. I think it's safe to say Coco on this surface might be her ideal setting. She's serving better.
Yes.
I think with Coco too, especially, talk about handling pressure. Like, she just continually makes runs at these deep events, and she's so mature. I don't know if there's a player, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, that's handled defeat better than her in the last couple of years, where if she does have a tough loss, she can let it roll off and rebound.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and as the quote says, I mean, she's and she knows too. Like, that quote's a great example. She dominated her in the first set, but understands these are professionals. These are great players. There's going to be a bounce back. So she wasn't deer in the headlights when Alexandrova turned it on. So I think she's very mature and could absolutely win this title.
The only time I've been a bit worried about Coco, a couple of occasions, but last year at Wimbledon when she went down to Navarro, she looked very panicked and worried. Brad Gilbert was still there and she was complaining about the forehand. And a little earlier this year when she played Yulia Putintseva, can't remember what tournament that was, maybe Dubai. And I remember the same thing happening, kind of that panic look. But just recently, she's been superb. Finals, Harris of Madrid and Rome, and now back into the quarterfinals. And we got another quote here. I move well on clay, says Coco, really comfortable with sliding, moving on the surface, the most physical surface for sure, she says. And I do well in that department. Why does she do so well, do you think?
I think she won, like she said, she moves really well. She's great at kind of retrieving, defensive when she has to play defensive. She can also go attacking really well. She has a good serve. So when she's on, she can really be, she has the whole game. She comes to the net. She's not afraid to come and volley. And, I was reading a stat that said that I think this is the 5th consecutive quarterfinal for her at the French Open, if I'm not mistaken. And then she's just 21. So that's an incredible stat for somebody who's so young. And again, and the Americans typically tend to play better on hard courts. They take a bit of time to come up to, up the curve on the European clay. But she's been doing really well, I would say. And I agree to Mitch when he said that she's really good with handling losses, coming back from it, and kind of rebounding.
Yeah, and you're right. 21 was a quarterfinal for Coco, 22 a final, 23 another quarterfinal last year. Got to the final four. She's 15 and clay, 15 and 3 on clay this season. And her award is another all US matchup. She's going to take on Madison Keys, of course, who's the only one, Mitch, that's able to win the Grand Slam on the WTA side. I actually have to call the individual tournaments majors. And then if you win all 4, to me, that's the Grand Slam. Okay. And of course, Madison Keys, having won the Australian Open, is the only one that can do it this year.
Yeah, I won't say the phrase calendar slam, then I'll just avoid that. But no, I think I'm just impressed by how tough she is mentally because that Kenin match before, like match
Yeah.
points down, and she's not playing points passive. She's going for her shots, and if I'm going to lose, I'm going to lose playing my game. Baptiste has been remarkable. Her development. She's won a lot of grueling matchups. Keys didn't overlook her. She played very smart tennis, and yeah, Madison Keys is maybe not a different player. I think she's always had the talent, but different mindset this year. Knows she can go all the way. And there's just some real courage and strength in knowing you can do it. And now she knows she can win a major. Another good player in Clay who's made a semifinal here before. So we'll see.
And she also has a title, doesn't she, on clay? Just one for Madison Keys out of the 9 she's won overall. This is a quote from Madison Keys. At the Australian Open, I was really brave to go with Mitch's point. She goes after on my shots. That's how I play my best tennis. Sometimes it's hard, but usually it pays off. And like Mitch said earlier, Harris, it's kind of fortune favoring the brave in the Madison Keys. She's not the kind of player that can sit miles behind the baseline and start grounding it out. She has to play her game.
Correct, and we've seen her do that. I saw that Kenin third set, and she played really well. Even when she was down those match points, she was playing really brave, going for her shots. And a lot of times when we see somebody win their first slam, there's always kind of a drop off in the next slam. They sometimes lose early with the pressure of being a slam champion. They don't kind of adjust to that very well. But with Madison Keys, she's done exceedingly well. Like you said, she's still in the hunt for winning the Grand Slam. And even if she goes down to Coco Gauff, I mean, there's nothing wrong in that. I mean, Coco Gauff's a great player on clay. She's higher ranked. She is kind of doing very well in play herself. So yeah, I think Madison Keys. I'm really interested to see how she does at Wimbledon because the surface I think suits her really well. She can play really aggressive. I'd be really excited to see her play on grass.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Candy, I do have to bounce though. Sorry, I can't stay much longer.
No, you've been amazing, Mitch. Mitch Michaels,
thanks so much
very
for
much
having me.
for joining us. And
I
we'll hear you
appreciate
soon.
you guys. I'm going to make sure I follow and read a bunch of Haresh's articles at Tennis Majors to get me prepped going forward. And Candy, keep up the great work. Anytime you talk to a coach, I'm like learning something. So I feel like I need a notepad next time.
Great.
So
Good. All right. Well, love
thank
it.
you guys.
Thanks,
I'll see you. Thanks for
Mitch.
having
See
me.
you soon. Thank you. All right, Harris, just you and I. So we've spoken about those matches. So we've had wins for Coco Gauff over Ekaterina Alexandrova, for Mira Andreeva over Daria Kasatkina, for Lois Boisson over Jessica Pegula, and Madison Keys takes out Hailey Baptiste in that all-US encounter. So now let's have a look at what we've got in store. By the way, Madison Keys, Coco Gauff, it's 3-2 overall for Madison Keys, Haresh. She won their last battle on clay. They're only meeting in clay. That was in Madrid last year. 6-4 in the third. If you had to put your house on who's going to come through that match, Keys versus Gauff, which way would you go?
I'm going to go Gauff at this point, and she's playing very solid. She's going to be just a little better, I feel, than Keys. So I'm going to go Gauff on that one.
All right, so we're going to go for Coco Gauff. Do you think Coco has got as good a chance as any to take the title?
She does. I think she's, the way she's played recently against Iga Swiatek. I mean, she's beaten Iga a few times that she hadn't done in the past. So, she won't be so worried about that. With Sabalenka, I mean, I think she lost a couple of close ones. But I think she can win. She definitely can win. But I'm still favoring Mira Andreeva. I think Coco and Mira are supposed to play in the semifinals if that kind of draw holds up. So I'm still picking Mira to win the title. So if that goes that way.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree at all. So let's look at tomorrow's quarterfinal matches. Aryna Sabalenka takes on Zheng Qinwen. Zheng, of course, winning on this court the Olympic gold medal last year. She knows all about Philippe Chatrier. However, she's only beaten Sabalenka once in 7 prior meetings. Last time they met was at Rome, not too long ago now. And that was the one that Zheng won, which is interesting, 6-4, 6-3. Before that, it was wins all over the board on hard and indoor for Sabalenka in Miami, at the Masters Cup WTA in Wuhan, the US Open in 24, the Australian Open in 24, and the US Open in 23. So they've met in a lot of majors, particularly at the closing stages, because, of course, they went head-to-head, didn't they, in last year's Australian Open final, Sabalenka winning that one 3-2. But that's interesting, don't you think, that the fact that last time they met, the only time they met on clay, it went to the Chinese player. Does that bode well for her?
It does. I'm sure it gives her a lot of confidence coming to this match, especially with a straight sets win on clay. So I'm sure she's going to take a lot of positives out of that. Sabalenka, for her side, I think she did mention in her press conference, one of this press conferences this week, that she was a bit tired in Rome. Although she didn't blame that as an excuse, she said that she was a bit tired. She wasn't sure whether she should play it, but she did give credit to her opponent. I think she's going to kind of put that match aside and then look at her earlier 6 wins, and she'll have confidence. She's done really well this year across the board, starting from the hard course going over to clay. I'm going to pick Sabalenka to win that one.
All right, so Sabalenka to make it 7-1 and win her first match against Zheng Qinwen on the clay courts and end the Chinese players' run on Philippe Chatrier. So that's that match, world number 1 versus world number 7. The other match on the women's side in quarterfinal action, Elina Svitolina versus Iga Swiatek, of course, 4-time champion. Swiatek's on, a 25-match winning run here at Roland Garros, and the poll leads the head-to-head 3-1. But Svitolina, we've spoken a lot about her, particularly yesterday, because, again, Olga Savchuk was on the podcast, fellow Ukrainian, has worked with Svitolina, and she is just playing the tennis of her life. It seems like, Haresh, she's come back from maternity leave, a different player, one who's just so much belief and fire in her game. She's the world number 14, taking on the world number 5. Do you see Iga Swiatek winning a 4th head-to-head meeting with Svitolina, or do you think Svitolina can win a 2nd against Swiatek?
I'm kind of 50-50 on that one. I think, in normal circumstances, I think Iga would be the big favorite, but she's not had the great clay court season that she's had. But again, then she had a great win in the last match. I think she's going to take a lot of confidence out of that win over Rybakina. Svitolina had a great match herself. She saved 3 match points against Paolini. Like you said, she's playing really determined. I think, she'd really want to win a big Grand Slam title before she kind of, in her career once. And, clay is a great surface for her. She's playing really well determined. The French love her, being, Gail Monfils' kind of home crowd. If she had to do it, I think she'd do it here rather than anywhere else. She's got a Grand Slam win against Iga as well. So she knows that she can beat Iga at these important matches. I'm actually 50-50 on this one. I'm not sure who's going to win this one.
I think if I had to put my money on it, I'd put Iga. It's hard to bet against her, isn't it? Just given her record here at Roland Garros, where a reminder that she has won the last 3 titles on the WTA side and did look very much better, didn't she, against Rybakina? Looked like she was happy and joyful on the court as opposed to the panic look that we've seen from the poll sometimes this year. On the ATP side, Sinner and Rublev are continuing to play. That will be our last round of 16 match this Tuesday. Lorenzo Musetti will go up head-to-head against Francis Tiafoe. Musetti, Haresh, I think is not a surprise that he's here in the quarterfinals, given that he's reached the semi-finals of all 3 Masters on clay this season, Monte Carlo, Madrid and Rome. But Tiafoe hasn't had particularly a brilliant season. And even though he does have a Houston clay court title, the clay and Tiafoe probably isn't the best match, but he's done it. He's got to the last 8 and he leads the head-to-head against Musetti 4-3. What do you think about that matchup, Tiafoe versus Musetti?
I think it's going to be a fun match. I think Tiafoe's done really well to come into the quarterfinals. He's not had a great 12 months, I think, leading into this. But I don't think he's dropped a set, if I remember correctly, this tournament yet. Musetti, like you said, he's done really well in the clay court season. He's starting to believe that he can win a Grand Slam title. A lot of people are talking about him in that kind of manner as well. I would pick him to win that. I think he's going to be very solid on clay. He's just better on clay. If this was hard court, I think Tiafoe would have a better chance. But on clay, I think Musetti, with his confidence, with his kind of good form on clay, his history with the surface, I'd pick Musetti to win that match.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad shout. And you're absolutely right. Tiafoe has not lost a set all tournament. He's beaten Roman Safulin, Pablo Carreño Busta, Sebi Korda, and Daniel Altmaier. So good names, but nobody that he's really had to struggle. There's been a couple of tiebreak sets in there, but he hasn't really been pushed. 17-12 for Tiafoe this season, 11-6 on the clay. Let's see for Lorenzo Musetti, who's the world number 7 with that stunning backhand of his. He has never got past the round of 16, so this is the best Musetti has ever done at Roland Garros. 24-7 is his win-loss record. 18-3 on clay. He has lost a couple of sets. He beat Yannick Hanfmann and Daniel Galan in straights lost 1 set to Mariana Navoni and 1 set to Holger Rune. So on average, I think he's had a slightly tougher run, hasn't he, to the quarterfinal than perhaps Tiafoe has. But you can only beat those players in front of you. The other quarterfinal match tomorrow, Tommy Paul against Carlos Alcaraz. And Alcaraz leads to head-to-head 4-2. They've only met once on clay before. That was last year at the Olympics. And it was a straight sets win, 3-6 for Alcaraz. Can you probably see the same thing happening tomorrow?
Yeah, I think I'd pick Alcaraz to win that. He's just playing really well, very confident. He's had a great clay court season. He loves playing in Paris. I think Tommy Paul has done well to reach the quarterfinals. I'm sure he's going to give it, he's going to give it his best. I think it'll be a little competitive as well for maybe a good part of the match, but I think Alcaraz will finally come through.
Let's just have a look at Carlitos' results so far. He is the world number 2, plays with such joy, doesn't he? Generally speaking, a winner last year, a semi-finalist in 23, quarter-finalist in 2022. He's 19-1 on the clay this season, has played 39 matches overall, won 34 of them. He has lost 3 sets. He beat Zeprieri in straights in the first round. Marajan, who's been a bit of a thorn in his side at times in the second round, 6-2 in the third. Then he got the better of Jumer, 6-4 in the third before beating Ben Shelton in that tricky match. That first set in particular was very tough, and Alcaraz won that as well. So Alcaraz versus Tommy Paul is the other men's quarterfinal. Let's just have a look quickly at the Sinner results. And Yannick Sinner, the world number 1, is currently in action against Andrei Rublev. He's 2 sets to love up. He's only lost 4 games so far. So now, Harish, let's get to the difficult question. You picked Mira Andreeva on the women's side. What about the ATP side, if you had to put your earthly belongings on the results?
I'm going to go with Sinner. I think he's playing really well. I personally like him as well. I'm a big fan of his, so that helps. But he came back really well to reach the final in Rome. Had that loss against Carlos, but I think if it goes down to the wire again between the two of them, I'm going to pick him. I think he's just playing really well over 5 sets. I'm going to go with Sinner.
All right, I think that's a good call, the right call. I can't see anyone beating Yannick Sinner either, and particularly if he wins as routinely as he has. So just to recap today's results, Alexander Zverev was a winner over Talon Griekspoor, sort of. He was 6-4, 3 love up when Griekspoor unfortunately had to retire due to having an ab problem. Novak Djokovic beat Cam Norrie of Britain in 3 straight. So Novak still on course for a 4th Roland Garros title. Alexander Bublik with the upset of the men's side today. He lost the first set to Jack Draper, but then beat the Brit 3-2 and 4 to advance to his first ever major quarterfinal. And Yannick Sinner 2 sets up currently on Andrei Rublev. And on the women's side, Coco Gauff beat Ekaterina Alexandra over love and 5. Mira Andreeva got the better of sometimes practice partner Daria Kasatkina 3-5. Lois Boisson was the Bublik, wasn't she, on the WTA side, beating Jessie Pegula from a set down. And Madison Keys has won the all-US matchup 3-5. And that means she is still on for the calendar slam. So those are the results today. Harish, you have been a joy to have on the podcast. You're watching Roland Garros live. A debut for you. How was it?
It was incredible. I love talking about tennis, and it was a great opportunity to talk with you and Mitch. And yeah, I just love talking about tennis. So always happy to kind of talk about tennis, especially around Grand Slams. We've got so much excitement and so much fun as we follow the storylines through the entire fortnight.
It's been another good day, and hopefully you will join us again this Tuesday. We're going to bring all the quarterfinal action to you, evaluate, analyse, and hopefully have a few laughs along the way. So thank you again, Harish. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening. And Diary of a Professional Tennis Coach, Roland Garros Live, will continue. Thank you for watching Diary of a Professional Tennis Coach. Please like, subscribe, and share. And we'll be back soon with another great episode. Hey, Harish.